Institutes of the Christian Religion by John Calvin, Volume 1, Chapter 2, Section 2. Knowledge of God involves trust and reverence. What is God? Men who pose this question are merely toying with idle speculations. It is more important for us to know of what sort he is and what is consistent with his nature. What good is it to profess with Epicurus some sort of God who has cast aside the care of the world only to amuse himself in idleness? What help is it, in short, to know a God with whom we have nothing to do? Rather, our knowledge should serve first to teach us fear and reverence. Secondly, with it as our guide and teacher, we should learn to seek every good from him, and, having received it, to credit to his account. For how can the thought of God penetrate your mind without your realizing immediately that since you are his handiwork, you have been made over and bound to his command by right of creation, that you owe your life to him, that whatever you undertake, whatever you do, ought to be ascribed to him? If this be so, it now assuredly follows that your life is wickedly corrupt, unless it be disposed to his service. Seeing that his will ought for us to be the law by which we live, again, you cannot behold him clearly unless you acknowledge him to be the fountainhead and source of every good. From this too would arise the desire to cleave to him and trust in him. But for the fact that man's depravity seduces his mind from rightly seeking him. For, to begin with, the pious mind does not dream up for itself any God it pleases, but contemplates the one and only true God, and it does not attach to him whatever it pleases, but is content to hold him to be as he manifests himself. Furthermore, the mind always exercises the utmost diligence and care not to wander astray, or rashly and boldly to go beyond his will. It thus recognizes God because it knows that he governs all things, and trusts that he is its guide and protector, therefore giving itself over completely to trust in him, because it understands him to be the author of every good. If anything oppresses, if anything is lacking, immediately it betakes itself to his protection, waiting for help from him, because it is persuaded that he is good and merciful, and reposes in him with perfect trust, and doubts not that in his loving kindness a remedy will be provided for all its ills. Because it acknowledges him as Lord and Father, the pious mind also deems it meet and right to observe his authority in all things, reverence his majesty, take care to advance his glory, and obey his commandments, because it sees him to be a righteous judge, armed with severity to punish wickedness. It ever holds his judgment seat before its gaze, and through fear of him restrains himself from provoking his anger. And yet it is not so terrified by the awareness of his judgment as to wish to withdraw, even if some way of escape were open, but it embraces him no less as punisher of the wicked than as benefactor of the pious. For the pious mind realizes that the punishment of the impious and wicked and the reward of eternal life for the righteous equally pertains to God's glory. Besides, this mind restrains itself from sinning, not out of dread of punishment alone, but because it loves and reveres God as Father. It worships and adores him as Lord. Even if there were no hell, it would still shudder at offending him alone. Here indeed is pure and real religion, faith so joined with an earnest fear of God, that this fear also embraces willing reverence, and carries with it such legitimate worship as is prescribed in the law. And we ought to note this fact even more diligently. All men have a vague general veneration for God, but very few really reverence him. And wherever there is a great ostentation in ceremonies, sincerity of heart is rare indeed.